Hey peeps, so because we have been on the subject of working with Lucifer, the Morningstar, and the energy of Satan the Devil, I thought I would take some time today to share decks that I recommend for connecting with these two energies. So this video is going to be focused on connecting with the energy and essence of Lucifer through tarot and oracle decks. And I just want to reiterate how I experience, let's have some tea. I just want to reiterate how I experience the energy of Lucifer and how I have found that we often work together and how we connect together as well. So I do experience Lucifer as a different energy than Satan. And what I have found Lucifer to really be is very angelic and light in his energy and essence. When we talk about him being the morning star, the son of Venus, I think that Lucifer holds an understanding of love, of loss, and of the importance of coming to understand yourself. And so I do find that I work with him a lot when I feel very vulnerable, when I need to remember to lighten up a little bit and laugh. And in those times when I'm kind of questioning who I am, you know, we all move through those cycles of transition and rebirth where we're in that in-between space. And we're not sure who we are, but we do know what we're ready to step away from or leave behind us, or we do know what no longer feels right or authentic for us and how we're being defined. And I love Lucifer for those types of conversations and connections and awarenesses and understanding. And I think I've often said on this channel that I do love to have a really great cup of red tea or a glass of red wine with Lucifer. And I experience him as very light in how he appears. So his hair is like a blonde that's almost white when I talk with him, when I connect with him, very long. He's very tall, very slender, and I do often see Lucifer with wings. In fact, there is a depiction of the morning star. There's a painting of the morning star, which if I can find it, I will put it in my Instagram stories when this video uploads. But there is a depiction of him that I do find to be really, really evocative of how I experience him. Other than I think in the painting, he has red hair. I experience Lucifer as having this very white blonde hair. But I would encourage you to connect with him at those times when you're redefining yourself, when you're moving through cycles of transition, and when you're curious about who you really are. He's very supportive of that type of working. And not as much a questioning God for me as Satan, but more a God that wants to know who you are. And so he's beautiful to have a glass of wine with because he's very loquacious and there's a lot of conversation that can be had. So, sip of tea. This list is a little bit, let's see, it's a meandering list, but I do have my number. I do have this in a semblance of an order, okay, guys? So there is a semblance of an order. Also, you have to forgive me because I am in the midst of year ahead readings, and so I have decks everywhere. So, okay, so we're going to start with the Heavenly Bloom Tarot. I love this deck. It was recommended by a mentoring student of mine. Truly, truly beautiful deck. So glad it was recommended to me, but I do experience Lucifer's energy as this kind of beautiful light essence that I think is expressed wonderfully in this deck. So this is the Heavenly Bloom Tarot. It's so great, you know, and it's so interesting. I'll go a long period of time without working with the deck, and then I pull her out and she is so beautiful. And I do consider Lucifer as being very connected to the sacred feminine and the essence of sacred feminine energy. So he's a beautiful balance between masculine and feminine energies. And this deck is so lovely. It's so kind of expansive, and it almost reminds me of like light fractals, when I work with this deck. And it is anime, of course, and within that genre. And so I do think it lends itself well to Luciferian energy. But it also has this lightness and expansion in the artwork that I do think encourages you to explore, to be adventurous, to have fun. I think if I were going to liken Lucifer to a major arcana card, it would be the Fool, because I do think he's open to adventure and learning and growing in a really just beautiful, enjoyable way. So this is the Heavenly Bloom Tarot again, and this is a deck that I like to work with when I am talking with, journeying with, walking with Lucifer. Next on the list is a deck that I am not sure if I'm remembering the name of correctly. I will try to, I don't even know if it's still available. I believe it's Madame Wilhelmina's Tarot. This deck has such a great sense of humor. It's so tongue-in-cheek. It's one of those ones that I just had randomly seen and purchased, and I thoroughly enjoy the fact that I did. I think I have a review on the channel somewhere. I love this deck. It's very tongue-in-cheek. It has a great sense of humor, and I do think that Lucifer has a wonderful sense of humor as well. So this, yeah, this deck is just juicy and fun and lighthearted, and it's got a little medieval nod to it, a little Victorian nod to it in the collage work, and it's just enjoyable. And this deck reminds me of, again, having a glass of wine with Lucifer. I feel like, you know, I don't tend to like walk outside a lot and talk with Lucifer. It's more like at my table. There's something magical about the kitchen table, right? Like there's something that happens when you sit at the kitchen table and you have a conversation with someone, where I think there's something about the kitchen being like the hearth of the home, the central space of the home nowadays, where you really can have these kind of confidences shared quietly. And so this is how I experience Lucifer. I guess I do see him as a very intimate entity, and you do go into those places. And I think that this is a deck that lets you access truths because it's lighthearted, because it's a little bit silly, and it knows it is. And it's really enjoyable to work with. And so pulling this deck out for this list, I was like, oh my God, I got to work with this deck more. I forget how great that deck is. Okay, next on the list is the Ritual Tarot. Now, I really do experience the Ritual Tarot as Kali, as Lilith, and she's been on many different deck lists over the years because she is a great, well, over the last year or so. How long have I had this deck? 2 years, guys? A year? However long the deck's been out. I digress. Let me go back here to the beginning. Okay, so I think that this deck is a portal for connecting with a lot of deity. And when it comes to connecting with the sacred masculine in regards to the Ritual Tarot, I do think that this deck can channel Lucifer really beautifully. And I have to say, I think if Lucifer were, you know, hanging out with us here, he would be an art history major. And so this is a great deck with its layers of symbolism and art history nods everywhere through the symbolism, right? I think that it speaks really well to Lucifer and to connecting and talking with him and sharing thoughts and ideas and stories. This is a beautiful deck for that type of connection. And so I think it channels his energy well. And as I said, I do think this deck is a portal at a lot of different levels for working with different deities. So if you're looking for like an all-around deck to connect with deity, while this deck may be more of an investment to start, I think you'll find that you can connect with a lot of deity through this deck. So if you're someone who's looking to build relationship with decks, relationship with deity, then I think Ritual Tarot by Tierra May is a wonderful option, because I do think it serves as a portal the more and more that I use the deck. So that is the Ritual Tarot. Let's see, next on the list is the True Black Tarot. Now, some of you may have thought that I would pull this puppy out for Satan, but I don't really connect with it as much in regards to Satan as I do with Lucifer, because remember, like I said, he's a light being to me. He's this really beautiful god of contrast who has a deep and intrinsic understanding around love. And so this deck, I think True Black just speaks so well to light, almost like light coming down into a cave from above. That's how I see the True Black Tarot. It's also a deck that's sumptuous and decadent, and let's face it, that's totally Lucifer. Like, hello, that's Lucifer. He is decadent and sumptuous. I mean, he's the son of Venus. He knows when something is just right? Like, it's not going to be a cheap glass of red wine. It's going to be a really beautiful cab that you're going to share together, that you'll savor and save the bottle so that you can treasure the memories of that exchange with him. So this deck really captures an essence of like the physicality of how I experience Lucifer. And so I do recommend this one if you are feeling called to connect with him. Like, I do really strongly recommend this one. I know that it is an investment deck, but I do think that it's worth it. I think this is a very special tarot deck. And yes, I do have the newest deck from the artist and creator, and I will be doing a video on that coming soon with my honest thoughts and opinions on it. But this deck is really, really magical. It's very special in my opinion, and I do like to use this to work with Lucifer. I think it channels his energy beautifully. So next on the list is Soul Cards Volume 1. I love this deck so much, and I'm going to do a dedicated video coming up on this deck soon, because over the years, something really profound has happened for me in working with this deck. And I think that there's a stillness and an ancient energy that we access through these cards that Lucifer has an innate understanding of based on his travels. I do see him as a traveling deity, as a deity that moves around in the world. And this is why he's so interested to know who you are and what you believe and what you think and how you define yourself and how you understand the world around you. Because he has traveled, because he's had experiences. And I think that Soul Cards is another portal deck that lends itself well to really communicating with this powerful entity, this powerful deity. So this is Soul Cards Volume 1, and I really, yes, I really, really, really love this deck. Look at that. It's one that it asks you to slow down and to not rush and to take your time. And I think Lucifer is a deity that understands the value of taking your time. So this is Soul Cards Volume 1, and I do really connect with the energy of Lucifer through this deck. Okay, next is Lautin, or however you correctly pronounce that, the name of this deck. I apologize, I butchered the name. This deck is amazing. It's incredible. I'm obsessed with it. I started to talk about it on the channel. We had a little love affair on our own for a time. We're going public now. It's a serious thing. But I think because this deck connects in with there is nudity in this deck, connects in with the energy of the maiden so well, it's very lovely to channel messages from Lucifer with. This myth, this story of the maiden and the wolf and their dance and their union, as well as the loss of each other. I think it lends itself well to an understanding that Lucifer has as someone who, an entity, a deity that's experienced a lot of reviling, a lot of derision, a sense of being the scapegoat for people's actions and decisions and choices. And so I do think there's a soft underbelly within Lucifer that he is accessing through working with humans. And I think that this deck speaks very beautifully, sensuously to Lucifer's energy as a deity that is perennially youthful. And there's a real joy to this deck. And I still haven't even like fully tapped into the magic of this deck, but I do feel that it lends itself well to channeling messages from Lucifer. And so I wanted to make sure it was on the list. These next two decks on the list are my top 2 decks for connecting with Lucifer. One of them, I'm not even sure if it's still in print, but it is a profound tarot deck. It was gifted to me by a viewer years and years ago. I cannot tell you how grateful I am that this viewer gifted me this deck. This is the Vinci Enigma Tarot. It's, wow, very, very special. And the guidebook is off the chain. The guidebook is a delight. And again, there is a lightness and an openness with the masterful works of Da Vinci here as well that really lends itself amazingly to connecting with the energy of Lucifer, in my opinion. Over the years, I've come to work with this deck for clients less and less, and it's much more of a personal deck that comes out for very specific ritual, very specific conversations with deity. And Lucifer is one such deity that I work with in regards to this. Some of you may know that I have tattoos with sacred geometry from medieval alchemical texts. And some of the drawings of Da Vinci featured here are very reminiscent of that type of work. And for me, these types of symbols drawn in this way are very profound magically, and I experience them as ways, as gateways into being able to access other dimensions from my perspective, and that's why they're tattooed on me. And this deck features some of this type of drawing. And so this is a very magical deck to me, and it is a really beautiful way to connect with Lucifer. Now, I do connect more with Lucifer through this deck than I do Satan. I think you could use it as a tool to connect with both of them for sure. But for me, this deck is much more in alignment with the essence and light of Lucifer. So this is the Da Vinci Enigma Tarot. Thank you to the viewer who gifted this to me years and years ago. If you're still watching, I'm so grateful. And I'm not sure if this is available anymore. If it is, I will put the link down below. Okay, the number one deck that I use to connect with Lucifer. And oh God, I love his artwork more and more the older I get. And that's Pete Moorbacher. And this is his Angelarium, Oracle of Emanations. So I do consider Lucifer as angelic in nature. And I have to say that his Pete Moorbacher's artwork, I feel like, just is so evocative of how I experience Lucifer in the realm that I feel like he predominantly occupies, like his home base, if you will. I love Oracle of Emanations more and more as the years go by. This is one of those decks that makes me so grateful to be a long-term Oracle and Tarot card obsessive because it's one that you just find more wisdom from as time goes by. Now, this deck, I do think you can work with both Satan and Lucifer through, but again, just like Enigma Tarot, predominantly I find myself connected to the energy of Lucifer through this artwork. I mean, look at that image. His wings are so similar to how I experience Lucifer's looking when he comes to me in Journey. And I just, oh man, I love this deck so much, guys. I need to do a video devoted just to this deck. But this is the Oracle of Emanations, and I think it's my #1 recommendation for connecting with Lucifer. So if you're like, Racine, I can only get one deck on this list, which one would you recommend the most? It's the Oracle of Emanations, the Angelarium Oracle of Emanations, excuse me, I always forget the title of this deck, because it's such a clear, like, fast way to connect with Lucifer, in my opinion. It's the fastest, it's the clearest, it's the most in alignment with how I see and experience and feel his energy. And I think it's something that, I think it's a deck that you can really work with in multiple ways. So you can use it as a direct tool to channel messages from Lucifer. You can build spreads with this deck and work with it. And while the guidebook is a great jumping off point, I really encourage you to work with this deck intuitively as well, because I do think that there's magic. Oh, what did I do there? There's magic you can access very profoundly through working with this deck intuitively. And instead of looking at each card as an individual entity, a separate entity to Lucifer, when you work with this deck, I recommend that you look at them as holding an essence that Lucifer is communicating to you or with you about, and that you're exploring in union with Lucifer's energy. So my top 2 recommendations are the Da Vinci Enigma Tarot and Angelarium Oracle of Emanations. I think that these decks are the strongest way that I connect with Lucifer through Oracle and Tarot, and I think you're going to have some amazing experiences if you feel called to connect and work with his essence through decks of divination. I hope you are doing well out there in the world. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit. I am sending you guys so much love and many blessings, and as always, I will see you in the next video.